Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lizzie, and for today's video, we are talking about HellHole. This is a film that I watched via Netflix. I've been kind of on a Netflix horror binge if you saw my other two reviews, but this is a film that takes place in 1987 Poland. A police officer investigating a mysterious disappearance infiltrates a remote monastery and discovers a dark truth about its clergy. So I didn't really realize initially that this film very much may be dubbed into English. I didn't know that kind of initially going into it, so keep that in mind if you do decide to watch this film, or in regards to what I say during this review, that I didn't really realize that initially. But let's get into it. So this film opens up with a scene of a clergyman running into this church holding a infant, which he notes as believing to be evil and is going to sacrifice when he is stopped by the police. We fast forward years later and we meet this man who is going into the same, I believe the same monastery church, and he is brought in as this new father, and right away there's kind of a spoiler moment. We see something within this character that really gives away like a major plot point in the film that I felt like could have been held onto until further into the story. It's really something that just immediately gave away part of the film. So that was right off the bat pretty disappointing. We are also then told by one of the other characters in this film that they have brought in our main character, refer to him as like father throughout the film. They welcome him in, saying how thankful they are to have someone who can do exorcisms, because exorcisms are very often like looked upon, which is actually pretty true. There's not like a lot of priests, from what I know, there's not like a lot of priests that still do exorcism. It's actually pretty like frowned upon. But then that whole idea is immediately swept away when that same like head clergyman, priest, whatever, clearly I don't really know much about like the Catholic Church, is then talking about them already doing exorcisms, and talks about how like they videotape all of their exorcisms for knowledge and evidence. Right away that like threw me off within the film. That threw me off with this film. I was like, okay, we already have it contradicting itself quite a bit. And now I did give this film a 2 out of 4 stars on Letterboxd. I said that this film has a very beautiful quietness about it, which it did, but then when it came to the dialogue between characters, it was just so bad it completely took me out of the film. Again, keeping in mind that I didn't really realize that this is most likely a dubbed film, so that probably had somewhat of an effect on the dialogue between the characters, but it was still just so immensely cheesy that it just completely took me out of it. And then there were just several other moments within the film. There is a scene, forewarning, about halfway through the film where our main character, Marek, I think is his name, Marek, I believe is his name, is vomiting, and it is so badly faked. Like, obviously vomiting in films is generally fake, but they're usually able to create a pretty realistic audio. They did not in this moment. That was, again, like, just completely takes you out of the scene, because the just sound effect, I guess, that they used was so immensely bad. Just had like several moments like that. Again, there's another scene a little later on where the character's digging up like a grave, and again, the sound effects that they use to create that is so bad, and I'm like, I'm not sure again if that's like the dubbing sounds that they use or if that is just generally bad in this film. Now I will say the last 20 minutes or so of the film takes a twist in it, which in all honesty probably could have been really good if at that point I hadn't already been so immensely bored out of my mind. Like, it could not get me back on track even with this very, like, far out of pocket, completely strange twist. And in fact, there's kind of a bit of a funny scene with one of the characters, but it lost me and it could not get me back, unfortunately. So yeah, unfortunately, was just not a big fan of this film. Now, if you want to avoid any spoilers, I'm gonna get into talking about the twist for the rest of this film. So if this is something that you want to see, go ahead, watch it, come back, and you can see my thoughts on the rest of the film. So, like I said with the description of this film, our character discovers the dark truth about the clergy. So we find out, so that spoiler that I mentioned where it would have been that were addressed with pretty much as soon as we meet Marek, could have been like saved for later on in the film. In the very beginning, where we see the clergyman with like the baby, we see a mark on it, and then when we are addressed with Marek, we see him like changing into his full, like changing out of regular like priest clothes into like his fatherly robes or whatever. If you are religious, my poor mother who's raised Catholic, maybe you would be proud of me for not having a damn clue what I'm talking about. But when he's changing, we see the mark, that same mark on him, which they address that later on in the movie, that he is like this chosen one, which again would have been a great reveal if we hadn't already seen that mark moment before. And if you don't catch it, then it's going to be revealed to you later on, but they make it pretty obvious, like it's pretty directly into your face in that moment. So I noticed it right away, but we find out that this is not just like a normal God-loving clergy. This is in fact, it's the opposite, is a Satan-worshipping clergy. Like I said, they believe he is this chosen one who was meant to be killed as a baby but wasn't, and they attempt to kind of sacrifice these women that he was sent there to search for. And then the devil is meant to come and be in his body, but it doesn't work right away. And so that moment is actually kind of like funny where it doesn't work, and so they end up just stabbing and killing him and throwing him into this hole. And then they're just like, our two kind of top main clergymen are just kind of like, what the fuck do we do now? So they just tell all the brethren to go, like, just go to bed, we'll deal with it later, we'll figure it out, no biggie, we'll work it all out. And then our head guy gets like drunk and kind of like dances around to music and like kind of destroys his room, which that was another, again, kind of funny scene. And then you're kind of watching it and you're like, okay, there's like a good 20 minutes of this film left, like what the fuck is gonna happen? And so you have, again, kind of like that funniness going on of these characters like trying to figure out what the fuck they're supposed to do next. And but fast forward through some scenes of some stuff happening. Don't want to completely spoil everything, but it does end up working. Let's just say that. And the monster that is created in this film to be like the devil, very odd, very weird, but very creepy. And again, would have been a very cool ending to the film if, again, I hadn't been just completely bored out of my mind by then. So Like I said, unfortunately, it just wasn't able to bring me back, even with those kind of odd, funny scenes in the ending of this film. But that is my thoughts on HellHole. If you have seen this film, let me know what your thoughts were in it in the comments below. I hope that you did enjoy this quick review. If you did, please do give it a big old thumbs up and make sure you hit the subscribe button for more spooky and horror related content. Quick shout out to my Patreons. Thank you so much for helping to contribute to the channel. If you would like to know the benefits for joining my Patreon, there are links down in the description below, along with all of my social media, and I will see you all again later with another video. Bye.